All right, Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Yeah, praise Yah. Amen, amen. All right, well, welcome to, whoa, there we go. Well, was the sound on when I said Rosh Chodesh Sameach before? All right, good. Then all of a sudden the wedges came on so I could hear myself. That's louder. All right, good. All right, well, welcome to our Rosh Chodesh service for the month of Harivi'i, the fourth month. Wow, how can it be the fourth month already? That's amazing. All right, so Rosh Chodesh Harivi'i. And so that is today. And so we're going to have our little, when I say little, I mean brief, Rosh Chodesh service as we celebrate the new month, the new moon. And then afterwards, I'll have a few words to say, I'm sure, about something. So let's get started. All right, we'll begin with the sounding of the silver trumpet. We're going to do this all on the screen. You're going to follow along. We'll read together. It's a very short service, about 15 minutes, so you can stand probably for the whole thing if you want to stand up. So go ahead and rise, and we'll begin with the sounding of the silver trumpet. Amen. Amen. All right. Psalm 51 and verse 15 together. Yahweh sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Yahweh, open my lips that my mouth declare your praise. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed times and the beginnings of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Kedushat Levanah, the sanctification of the new moon. O Yahweh, our Elohim, and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor. A life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin. A life free from shame and reproach, a life of prosperity and honor. A life in which love of the living Torah and the fear of Elohim animates us. A life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth, and let us say, Amen. All right, the new moon of the month of Harivi'i is today. May it prove to be good and fruitful for all 12 tribes of Israel. May the set-apart one, blessed be he, grant this Rosh Chodesh to us and to all his people, for life and peace, for gladness and joy, for deliverance and consolation. And let us say, Amen. Together. Blessed, praised, glorified, honored, and exalted be the name of the King of Kings, the set-apart one. Blessed be he, who is the first and the last, and beside him there is no Elohim. Extol him in the heavens. Yahweh is his name. Rejoice before his face. His name is honored beyond all blessing and praise. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Let the name of Yahweh be blessed forever and ever. From Isaiah 66, verses 22 and 23. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. Amen. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. All right, you may be seated. All right. Okay, so it's another turning of time, another memorial or a marking as we see time moving. Okay, and so it's the 4th month now. And so we'll go through some of the things I say every month, every new moon. First thing being that we should be looking to see if we've made any progress since the last new moon. We've had roughly 30 days. Are we coming further along? Are we becoming more Yeshua-like? Have we grown in any way? Are we gotten a hold of our emotions a little better? Are we more vigilant and diligent about our relationship vertically and our relationships horizontally and all those good things? Okay, again, a reminder that if you are struggling, and we all struggle from time to time, more often than we'd like to, I'm sure, that we should be reminded that you can still get there from here. He didn't call you to fail, okay? He called you to make it. Now, the choice is still yours. Let's not ever get confused into some of what Christianity taught people about, this idea of sort of having your golden ticket and you made your altar call and once saved, always saved, and all this other nonsense. All right? How people can get mad that I called it nonsense? It's nonsense. Okay? It doesn't make sense. There's no sense to it, okay? Why? Because it makes no sense that you would have nothing to have to do. Actually, you know what makes no sense? Is that the creator of the universe, for 4,000 years, your whole Old Testament, required behavior in response to him as part of relationships. He required actions. And then all of a sudden, I guess I made a mistake. 4,000 years they couldn't do it, so we'll take that all away. That doesn't make any sense. You know it doesn't make any sense, but it's hard for that to work in your brain because you like the idea of not having to do anything. So the logic is swimming upstream against the emotion of, oh, that sounds great. I don't have to do anything. As a matter of fact, you've been lied to so big that you've been told that your effort to do something mocks what the Messiah did. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You're not doing something because of what Messiah did mocks what he did. He didn't do what he did so you didn't have to. He did what he did so that what you do matters. Okay? Let's just remember that. I mean, that may be something we have to make a big meme about, okay? He didn't die so that you don't have to do anything. He died so that what you do matters. Because otherwise it wouldn't have mattered. No matter what you did, you were not going to get anywhere. Okay? So now, what you do matters. Now, that's an incredible, amazing gift from above, to make it so that what you do actually matters. And we should think about that every day for the next 30 days, going to the next month. Can we focus on embracing that what we do, as far as the Creator's concerned, matters? Actually, what you do also affects everybody around you. It matters. Okay? The next time somebody needs you for something, don't say to them, well, I don't have to do that for you. Messiah did it, so, he'll do it for you. No, they need your help. They need your help now. And they want it to be you. This is all part of the training ground of you becoming him. Who do we go to usually when we need help? We go to him, right? We pray. Well, he wants us to be like him. People should be able to come to us and need help. We should be able to go to them when we need help. And one of the things this congregation and all congregations, I think, hears to some degree is that most people are not that helpful, or they don't make themselves available. All right, so I got some notes here, actually, what I wanted to cover tonight. Believe it or not, I wrote a few things quickly in my phone. All right, let's see. The first thing I wrote on there is I want us to think about convenience versus inconvenience. Why do you think, now some of you thinking, oh, I don't think that way, but a lot of you think that this walk somehow shouldn't be inconvenient. I don't see that anywhere in Scripture. In Scripture, it is clear that this walk is going to be inconvenient because you're in a world not His. Right? Go listen to Peace in a World Not His. There is nothing convenient about this walk. Being the only one in your family or one of a few in your family, mostly, how many of you are the only one in your family? Okay, almost all the hands went up that are trying to walk this out. Torah observance in the context of Messiah, right? That's not convenient. How about your bosses? Do they think it's convenient for you to not work on Saturday and not on holidays? No, that's not convenient. See, this is what I want you to hear, though, okay? We do what we need to do because it needs to get done, not because it's convenient. I'll say it again. You need to do what needs to get done because it needs to get done, not because it's convenient. Because a lot of you have things you know you need to do, but you're not doing it because right now it's not convenient. It's not convenient to tithe. It's never convenient to tithe, okay? It's not convenient to, say no to your boss when he wants you to work for overtime and pay you double on a Saturday or something. I mean, it's not convenient to go to a family member's house and they want to put stuff you can't eat in front of you. It's not convenient to say no to a wedding or something that's on a Saturday that you can't go to. You have to do what you have to do. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's the ideal time to do it. I'm going to pop a bubble here, hopefully, for some of you. It's never ideal. Anything that you're waiting for, this is a personal development gem, okay? This is a nugget or gem. If you wait for the convenient moment where everything lines up in the stars perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. Because you will always find reasons why now is not the perfect right time. Now, there may be moments that actually are really good time, but you won't see it because it's not perfect enough. Or at least it doesn't look perfect enough. And so you'll make excuses. To make this journey 1 month at a time, one new moon at a time, but eventually to the kingdom, to the end of your last breath, you're going to run into a lot of things that you need to do that are not convenient to do, and they're not ideally situated to do. Some of you are all like, well, my spouse doesn't, think this way, doesn't believe this way. When's the right time to tell them? There's no right time to tell them. You need to tell them. Why don't we do the things that are inconvenient? Because they're hard, at least they appear to be. Has anybody ever done an inconvenient thing and found out it wasn't as bad as you thought? I mean, not always. Sometimes it's worse. But sometimes it's not as bad as you thought. But we're afraid is part of the problem. So we're looking for everything to line up because we have fear. Well, I want to make sure I've got another job lined up before I tell my boss that I'm leaving, that he might fire me. Well, and then what if you can't find that other job before you get fired or have to go? Maybe Abba's waiting to give you that as soon as you get fired. But really what he's testing you is, and by the way, he may not give that to you knowing that you're putting off doing what you need to do because it's not convenient. How many things in your life are you struggling with because you're waiting? Because you're afraid if I do it, something will happen. Wait, hold on. You all have one of these, whatever yours is called, but this is the scriptures, the blue scriptures. But if you have a Bible, where does it say anywhere in here that this walk's going to be convenient? Or that there won't be consequences? In John, Yeshua says, well, they hated me, they'll hate you. Oh, but we just want to be loved by everybody. And we do. And we are loved by lots of people, but we're hated by some. All right? I get the extreme ends of the spectrum. I got people think I walk on water and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and other people think I'm the Antichrist. I mean, I get both, okay? And everything in between. And I don't care about either. I can't emotionally get hooked into either one, okay? I'm not the Antichrist, and I don't walk on water. I'm in the middle somewhere, okay? But you are always worried about consequences. Every choice has potential consequences. And it's the consequences that you see as inconvenient. Because you're not tithing. So then what if I tithe? Well, I don't have a budget for that. Well, maybe you would have a better budget if you started tithing, and doors would open up for you and things would fix itself. And you think like, oh yeah, you all say that, you preachers up there at the mic. You all say that because you just want our money. Why would I want your money? You don't pay me. He does. If he wants to pay me, he'll have somebody send it. Or it'll just show up in an envelope with no name on it. I mean, whatever. It'll just show up. I have full confidence of that. So I don't know about anybody other preacher out there, but your tithing situation, that's not convenient for you. And so you say, well, as soon as I get my budget worked out, I'll start tithing. As soon as I get this worked out, I'll start tithing. And you never do. And you never get there. Look, there had been times in my life when I was broke, and I can tell you one thing I knew was I needed to be giving to get out of broke. This isn't a health, wealth, gospel nonsense. I'm just saying is he's not going to flow to you what you're not flowing through. The widows might, okay? So it doesn't have to be a lot. This is not give $1,000 seed and you'll have whatever. This is simply saying obey what he says, okay? Some of you have a problem with Shabbat. It's not convenient. Okay? We had a guy that was kind of a friend of the ministry years and years ago. It's almost 25 years ago. And he was a big to-do with the Baptist church he went to, and he had a regular, very competitive tennis thing that he did on Saturdays and all, and it was just not convenient. He knew what I was talking about. Okay? I mean, he listened to the teachings, and we would talk about them, and he got it mostly. But it wasn't convenient. So he wasn't going to give up his big position in the church and give up his Saturday tennis match and whatever it was, right? We have the teaching, endure to receive your crown. What are you willing to give it up for? Paul says, be careful, let nobody steal your crown. By the way, it's not that somebody's going to walk over and rip it off your head. You're going to leave it somewhere and walk away from it and forget you put it down. Negligence is what's going to cost you your crown. Anybody ever lose something because you put it down and forgot where you put it? Because you weren't paying attention to something that actually was valuable and you treated it very casually? That's how you lose your crown. And then someone walks over and technically they're stealing it. Well, you kind of abandoned it. You know. But you know what? That level of vigilance, of paying attention, it's not convenient. Because after all, I want to focus on other things. Why would I want to focus on that? Being vertically minded at all times. Praying always. What's praying always mean? It means being vertically aware at all times. That's not convenient. My mind wants to be filled with all kinds of garbage and dumb things and everything else that's going on around me. I don't want to always be thinking about, is what I'm doing in the right context with him? Certainly not convenient. And so, I've had a few of you tell me, in your stories over the years, so many things where you think, you know what, I don't know if this was worth it because it's so hard. Why would you expect it not to be hard? Some of you think, oh, it's easy for you to say. Listen, I'll trade places. It's not hard maybe the way your stuff is hard. It's hard in a totally different way. But trust me, this is not an easy job. Okay? And so just own your stuff. Focus on your stuff. All right? Because that convenience inconvenience thing is going to get you in really big trouble. It's not convenient to lose friends. And by the way, it's not because you cut them off as much as they cut you off. You start walking in a different walk, they don't want to deal with you anymore. Let me ask a question. Did you, and raise your hand if you lost more friends because they left you than you left them? Almost every hand went up. Okay, I'm just telling the people on the camera so they can know. Okay? Most people have lost more friends because they left you than you leave them. Why? Because two can't walk together unless they agree. You're now walking a different walk and don't agree. They're not going to want to walk with you at this point, let alone you not wanting to walk with them. That's not convenient. Some of you who are watching right now, almost all of you that are in this room, but some of you who are watching right now realized it wasn't convenient to walk this out where you lived. It was very inconvenient. There wasn't anybody else around that did this, understood what you were doing, so you couldn't walk with them. So then you had to make a choice between that inconvenience and the inconvenience of moving, because there's nothing convenient about moving, okay? And I can say I know that pretty good. My wife and I think we moved about 11 times in the first 5 years or 8 years that we were married. We just kept, and sometimes in the same town. Changed apartment places, got a house, whatever. I mean, we had, moving's not fun. I get that, all right? So it's not convenient. Everything is trade-offs. Everything's trade-offs. I teach in the Level Up class opportunity cost. Every time you make a decision, you're choosing not to do other things. So that's the cost of your choice. So choosing to be here in this walk, you chose not to be doing something else. Okay, and that's a big deal, because some of that, in terms of the consequences, is not going to be very convenient. Okay, it's going to make life a little challenging for you. And that could be very rough. And so, for those of you that are new and are watching and just found us because it's a Rosh Chodesh service being posted and you don't usually find us on Saturday, I'll just give you a little bit, not really quite our announcements, and maybe Harold, you can pull a slide up and try to grab one as I mention it. So I'll mention a few things and you can grab them. Let me know when you got them up. You got it? All right, so we have, for example, we stream every Friday night. Some of you are like, oh, but I have a thing I always do on Friday night. Oh, well, maybe you want to hear a Torah portion on a Friday night. Okay? Oh, well, there's lots of people who do Torah portions on a Friday night. Well, that's true. Not the way we do, but that's true. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. So we stream twice a week, Friday night at 6:30. Okay, 7:30. I saw the 6:30 Central, sorry, on the screen. At 7:30. Okay, if you're here locally, we eat first, right? We'll come here and eat first, then we stream. We also stream on Saturday. And that's at 1:15 in the afternoon, right here on YouTube, both of these. Now, our service runs over 4 hours. Wow, that's not convenient. Oh, why? What else do you have to do? It's Saturday. It's Shabbat. But you could think, 4.5 hours? I went to the Baptist church, it was 45 minutes. Okay. They wanted to hurry up to get to Cracker Barrel. I get it. All right? We are not in a hurry to go anywhere. There's no store for us to go to or place to go eat. So we eat together here after we sit for 5 hours together. But that's the thing, is that really convenient? Well, I guess it could be in some ways. It's convenient not to have other things to do and you have that time to have something appropriate to do during Shabbat. Oh, but I live like 3 hours away. Well, driving 2 or 3 hours is not convenient. Moving's not convenient, okay? It's not ideal to sit in your living room and watch this as opposed to being physically someplace. It's less than ideal for sure. However, it's better than going to a place you know you're not hearing what you need to hear. Because that would be very inconvenient too. Okay, well, this place is local, but every time the guy opens his mouth, they know what he's saying is not right. Anybody been to those places? Okay, all these hands go up. And so it's hard to go to those places. I've tried, and then I remember one week I looked at my wife and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit here and listen to it. I'm not mad at them. I didn't attack them. I didn't say that they were wrong about this, that, or the other thing. I didn't argue with the leadership or anything. I just I can't do this. I'm done. And I just left. Didn't leave mad. Didn't leave anything else. I just said, I can't do this anymore. And by the way, for all of you out there, I want you to see something or learn something from how I handled this. I thought zero thoughts that it was my job to change how they were doing things. I was a guest in their place. They have their way of doing things. It works for them, whether I thought it was good or not, or right or not. So I wasn't mad at them. I wasn't judging them. I just felt this isn't working for me. Now, I disagreed with some things. It doesn't even matter, but I wasn't taking it in a judgmental way. I simply said it doesn't work for me. But I never had a thought to change them and tell them how wrong they are and straighten them out. Not my place. And by the way, I was already a rabbi at this time. And I was at another congregation in New York, and I did talk to the rabbi. I talked to the rabbi. I said, look, I'm a rabbi. If maybe I could be helpful. I only talked to the leadership about how can I help. All right? It wasn't about anything else. But yet some of you guys are going to go into a place and not like what's going on. You're going to want to try and straighten them all out. Why? And by the way, has that ever worked? I've never heard anybody tell me that it's worked. Because it doesn't work. Okay, they're doing what they believe is the way they're supposed to do. And then for all of you that want to call me and tell me how wrong I am, save your breath. Okay? Only because I'm also convinced that this is the way I'm supposed to do things as they were with their thing. And no, Abba did not anoint you to go and annoy every leader out there. So you weren't filled with the annoying. Well, maybe you were. As opposed to the anointing. But you guys are going to get on a live stream and tell me how wrong I am and all this stuff. And this. Why? Go find a place that makes sense to you, or you know what? Do what I did. No place made sense to me, so I started my own. I followed the leading of the Ruach and started teaching. Okay? And maybe that's what you need to do. I don't know, but why would you try to change this? And what if you're wrong? There has to be some humility in there. It's very arrogant to step up to an existing thing and tell them they're wrong. Okay? Very. Some of you are going to be like, oh, but Yeshua did that. But he was Yeshua. So by definition, A, he was right. Okay? There was no argument that he was right. He was right. And B, he was at the top of the vertical structure that they were all under. So it was his job and responsibility to correct everybody. Remember, you don't correct without appropriate relationship. You have to be in a proper place structurally with someone to correct them. But you know what? When we went to that congregation, we were just starting back in our journey, and it was in New York, and it was convenient to a certain degree to drive an hour to this place, or a good close an hour or so to this place. It was the only place we could go to in New York at the time. But it wasn't what we were looking for. It wasn't what we needed. So then we had to figure out what to do, because now we had to figure out an inconvenient response or answer. All right? So just so we're clear about that. This is not a convenient thing. It's the right thing. Okay? When Abba calls you and pops your bubble, he's opening your eyes to what's right and what's wrong, and you are to seek what's right regardless of whether or not it's convenient. And so if you want to go from what you are into what he is, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to do that are not easy and not convenient. All right? They're going to be challenging and put you in difficult places. That's what I mean by inconvenient, meaning it's going to make your life harder, not better and easier initially. All right? As far as looking at it from a fleshly point of view, things will be tougher. From a spiritual point of view, things will improve tremendously. If you can see it through all the fleshly whining and crying. All right? So I want us to get this. Okay, so we offer, all of our teachings are online, on YouTube, on our website, on Spotify, on iTunes, on Podomatic, on, what was that other one, that app? Castbox. I mean, people put it on places I didn't even know we put them. Okay, they're all available. They're all free. So go check them out. If I'm stirring you up, go ahead, check out the teaching, see what they're all about. This is not really teaching. This is me kind of poking your bubbles a little bit and kind of encouraging you and lifting you into a place of a right mindset so you can move forward. I mean, I tell you that you need to do stuff, but I'm not telling you what to do. The doing comes out of the teachings. I mean, yeah, we mentioned Shabbat and tithing a little bit because those are like the two big the three things people trip over is kashrut, Sabbath, and tithing. I guess in feast keeping, right? That's it, the big ones. The days you keep and what you eat. That really messes with people. Hey, guys, it's not convenient to put seat on. A little awkward to be all of a sudden wearing strings on your pants. And what is somebody going to say looking at me? What are they going to think? What do you care what they think? I care what he thinks. I believe he said to do it. I'm doing it. Well, somebody might laugh at me. So? I mean, didn't the Messiah get laughed at, mocked, ridiculed, spit on, scourged, and every possible negative thing that you can imagine? We're in good company. There are verses that say that if you are mocked and attacked for doing what's right, this is a big blessing. You're looked at in a very positive way. Blessed are you when you're picked on for doing righteousness. Okay. It's not convenient, though. Some of you that are here, that's great. I appreciate that. Some of you are watching on the screen. You know what wasn't convenient? Arranging your night so you could be here. Getting your meal done so you could be here. We're going to have another inconvenient moment Friday night. Because after all, I know you're tired and you worked hard all week, and so did I. And I'll be doing it all day then Saturday, and then I'll be counseling you people all the way till midnight Saturday night, which I did. Oh, by the way, thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. I appreciated that. But even though my birthday was the next day, I counseled till midnight that Saturday night because it wasn't convenient for me to put me first, okay? The convenience was to put you first. That means I had to be inconvenienced. So I'm not saying that for you to feel for me. I do it without a blink. Elder will tell you that. There's no thought. If it's a choice of something for me or something for you, it's always you. You may think that's just words. Well, ask Elder. Ask anybody that's needed me at any time of day, whenever it's been. I put you first. That's not convenient, though. Okay? Everywhere I go, even when I'm on vacation, I still take calls, I still work. Why? Because it needs to get done. What did I say at the very beginning of this? You do what has to get done because it has to get done, not because it's convenient. You take calls even on vacation? Well, why? Did the calls stop needing to be taken? Did things stop needing to be done? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do try to get the vacation still to be vacation up to a point. But I know my job and my role. Maybe that's the problem. You don't understand your role. Your role is to be an obedient child of the living Elohim and put all of that he desires first. And that, I promise you, is not convenient. There's going to be so many things in your life that it's going to mess with in order to do that. But you have to change your mindset. Look, my wife can tell you, before I had Elder, before I had all the help that I have, I don't think she can tell you that for about 6 or 7 years that we didn't end up at a restaurant. Every time, if we went out to eat or anything, I would be outside the restaurant on the phone before the food showed up because I would get a call before I could even sit down. She just thought all meals started with me outside. Literally every time. At some point during the meal, but usually before the meal, I'd put in my order and then go outside because I'd be on a phone call. Because I didn't have anybody else to take the phone calls. I'm not saying that to brag at all. I'm just saying I'm giving you an example. I did it why? I didn't even think about it being inconvenient. I thought about it, this is what I'm supposed to do. When Abba says you need to keep the Sabbath, you need to do all these other things a certain way, why do you think about anything other than that? That's what you're supposed to do. It's going to interfere with stuff, so what? You know. First time it came up for me, my brother's twin girls were having their bat mitzvah during Sukkot. So he called me up, and he said, you're invited to come to the bat mitzvah. I said, Sukkot. Now, it's not that it would be wrong to go. I was running the Sukkot. Okay? Now, was I upset about it? No. Why? Because I don't care about the inconvenience. I've already overcome all of that. That's what you need to get. What do you mean you can't come to my daughter, whatever it is, wedding? Well, I'm sorry. I have to keep the Sabbath. Well, they get all mad at you. Well, that's inconvenient. Now, thankfully, my brother didn't get mad at me, but, he could have, and I wouldn't have cared. It wouldn't have affected my decision, in other words, okay? All right? Oh, here's good. I got another one for you. You guys want more? All right. This is actually on the board in the conference room, so if you ever do counsel with me, I'll probably point to it and use it. All right? Now, actually, I took a picture of it. That's why it's not where in my notes. Okay, here it is. All right. You ready? Look at negative feedback logically, not emotionally. That's what I want you to do for the next 30 days. Develop a habit. Look at negative feedback through the logic side, not the emotional side. Okay? Because emotionally, what's going to happen? You're going to be disappointed, you're going to get offended, you're going to be upset, you're going to be angry, you're going to be whatever. That's your negative feedback. What's negative feedback? No. That's the number one negative feedback. You can't have it. You can't do that. No. All right? And so, whatever the negative feedback would be. Elder likes to ask the question all the time. I know you're upset, but is what he said true? Okay? I don't like what Rabbi said. But was it true? That's the logic side. But you can't see that if the emotion's driving. Okay? So you need to look at any negative response. Something negative is given to you as a feedback to whatever you just did. Feedback is you did something or didn't do something that was expected of you, whatever, and somebody gave you feedback regarding that thing, and it was in the negative variety, right? It was a negative type of feedback. So you have to take the logical side and say, okay, first of all, are they right? Okay? And if you're looking at it emotionally, you'll never come up with yes. Because the emotional side cannot accept that they would be right and you would be wrong. So now you're going to have a problem with either the way they said it or some other thing or find some spin, instead of just saying, you know what, I wonder if they're right. Okay? Look, I've had to talk to people in the praise team at times. I said, look, you were rushing, you were off here, something happened this way, and that's negative feedback. Or they could say, you know what, let me go back and listen to it, hey, you were right. Don't worry so much about the delivery. Let me tell you why. Because you're not going to hear it right anyway if you're emotional. The delivery is going to come across way different than it actually was delivered because you're going to receive it in a different way. I've had so many people accuse me of yelling at them when I never raised my voice. But it was negative feedback. So to them, I screamed at them. And some of you are thinking, well, how do you know? Well, I've had witnesses. Like Elder will be sitting there and people say, oh, I went in there and, or they'll say, last time I came in, you yelled at me. And we're both looking at the person like, what? No, I told you were wrong and you need to stop doing whatever you're doing. Or I said, no, but I said it like this. I said it quietly. I give most of my negative feedback that way, okay? But it's, by negative, I mean corrective. Negative to you, corrective to me. I think it's positive feedback, the one who's giving it. Maybe you can start thinking about it too when you receive it. But it's negative, meaning it's telling you something that you don't desire to hear, because you don't want to hear you fell short, you didn't do something that was expected, you did something that was expected but you did it wrong, you did something that wasn't expected that they didn't want, or you want to do something and someone said no. And so you can't look at that feedback emotionally. You're never going to grow where you need to grow if that's what you're doing. You must look at it logically. I've taught you this in the past. There's a battle going on in your head, logic versus emotion. Now, I'm not telling you not to be emotional, but whichever one's stronger drives. So if you're overly emotional in a situation, the logic has no shot. And so it's going to drive. The emotion's just going to drive. But if you're strong enough in your logic and have your emotion under control, the logic side can drive. And then it may be logical to get all excited or whatever it is, or to get upset on some level, but upset with yourself to realize I need to strive and do better or something like that, right? Oh, but what if the other person was wrong? Doesn't matter. Then you logically say, you know what? I don't agree with you. I think you were wrong, but I'm not going to get upset about it, and I'm going to move on. Because the emotion's only going to create gasoline on the fire. It's only going to make it worse. I'm not going to get anything positive out of it, okay? See, that's why I like having the big, giant whiteboards I have in the other room, because when I counsel, I almost always have to turn people around and look at something that I wrote for somebody else. And so I leave it up there, okay? And actually, recently, I used one of them for the person that I actually wrote it for. I used it for them a second time. And I was like, wait a minute, didn't I write that for you originally? Yep. Okay? And so you have to know that that's a battle that we're dealing with. All right, so back to some of the things that we're offering. This is not from that slide. Go to the level up slide. And I just want to talk about this for a second, because it's not the Sabbath, so it's easier to do that. So in order to help those who struggle in the things that I'm talking about exactly, is this type of stuff people struggle with, in every area of your life, I have a program called Level Up. It's sponsored by GWD. That's my personal ministry. It stands for Generational Wealth Development. And I use classes to help people to grow in all aspects of their life. So we're talking about spiritually, obviously, but that's mostly done here as part of the congregation. We're talking about physically, so like in your health, okay? We're talking about financially, career, finances, budgets, getting out of debt, that kind of stuff. Like we talk about things and when I say physically, it could be eating, it could be activity, right? All these things are broken down into all these different categories. Socially, what area of your life don't you want to take to another level, right? Every area we should be wanting, because that's part of the whole point. We're elevating. We're going up. I'm not saying we're physically going to go up but we're trying to elevate to the above. Raise ourselves to the level of those from the above. And so we have all of these categories that I cover in this class. And it's not an end-all, be-all. It's actually a fantastic starting point. It's a launching point. It gives you the raw tools. And so this class starts this Sunday. And so you haven't registered, you can still register. Go to the website that's on the screen, gwdlevelup.com. Now, for those of you that registered, I don't know that we did this right, Tommy. I'll have to talk to Tommy about this. Because all of you that registered, I think, got a confirmation email. I don't know if you got the confirmation email after you paid or before you paid or whatever. But if you haven't paid, you're not getting in the room. It's a Zoom class. And you need to be paid, unless you made other arrangements with me, by Sunday, okay? Which really means you got to be paid by Friday, because you're not going to do it on Saturday. Okay, so you need to pay, and then this is the thing that we're going to be doing on Zoom. It's going to be probably 6 classes of 3 or 4 hours each. So this is not a small program. Okay, it's going to be live and interactive. We're going to be doing this on Zoom. You can live anywhere and be a part of this. All right? But it's to learn how to do some of the things. I'm giving you all these little tidbits, and some of these things will also be in the class, because these are all things that you need to apply to level up. How many of you were in the other level up class already? So I've got half the room or more, actually, was in the level class. By applause, how much would you recommend the class? Okay? All right. So if you've never done personal development before, this is going to be a tremendous eye-opening experience. If you've done it before, you're going to realize that I've distilled so much as the other really good, personal development teachers from all of. I've been doing this for like 40 years, okay? Actually, 45 years, as far as working on personal development. So it's a tremendously distilled. That's what you're paying for, by the way. It's a $500 class. I didn't mention that earlier. This isn't a free program because MTOI is not doing it. I'm doing it. And by the way, none of that money goes in my pocket. I use it to bless those that the ministry wouldn't necessarily be able to help, but I can help. Because the ministry has its hands tied to a certain degree where if I do for one, I should also be able to do for anybody else in the same type of situation. So some things are unique, individual things that are more isolated, and if I do it for one, I can't do it for everybody. So I have a separate ministry to try to do some of those things, okay? And so this class, not only is it going to have a value for covering these like 5 or 6 major areas of your life, but it's also going to be something that every time I run the class, you can take it again for free. And as we record all the classes, you'll have access to all the recordings forever, right? So that's, again, an incentive to maybe take the class. But look, this is mostly because I'm very selfish, and most of the counseling that Elder and I do is because you guys need to level up. You're struggling in areas of your life. And I'm going to help start you in a journey to fix some of those things, okay? And that's what we do on Rosh Chodesh. I mean, anybody watching for the first time, a lot of group therapy, sort of personal development on a Rosh Chodesh. All right, that's what I love to do, to inspire you for the next month. That's what we talked about, some of the things we talked about. Let's see, is there anything else on my list here that I wanted to cover? All right, last thing. I'm giving you a lot of stuff tonight. You guys okay with that? All right. And these are not things you've never heard me say before. Just like every month, I remind you that you can get there from here. Like it's not too late. You can repent and make commitment to go forward and start doing the things you need to do, whether convenient or not, that are necessary, right? Well, also, you've heard me say before that we should be, and it's easy for me, I'm red. Reds are results-focused anyway. To be much more results-focused. Let me explain, though. Before you do anything, especially when you're interacting with other people, especially if you're posting on the internet or whatever you're doing, you should be asking the question, especially if you're in a negative state of mind, a negative emotional place. You should ask the question, what result am I hoping to accomplish? What am I looking to have happen? And then ask the second question is, what is the likelihood that what I'm going to do will actually get the result? You know? Because some of you, when you're mad, go, well, I'm going to make this post, and they're going to read that post, and they're going to feel so bad, they're going to be so sorry. No, they're just going to get angrier, and you should know that. So you should be honest with yourself and say, okay, really, what I'm hoping will happen, is that really what's going to happen? What is really likely to happen? See, I try very hard to do everything I do thinking about, is it actually likely to get a result? Elder can tell you, there's so many people that I do not respond to because I know there is no result that I will be able to get that's worth getting. So I just don't respond. Things that all of you, if you were in my position, most of you would respond because you'd be all hurt and offended that they said whatever, and I just ignore it. And of course, I've been accused of being a coward because I ignored it. I was like, no, there's nothing to be gained. And so most of you guys, when you're upset and you make these posts that you post, I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish, especially when you're attacking me. That's just a waste of everybody's time. Okay? Because it's not going to get any good results. It's not going to even get a bad result. All you're going to do is get a bunch of people that already don't like me to say how great your post is. And then you'll feel good for 5 minutes, and then for what? You know? I mean, there's no point to all of that. He called me to do something. You're not going to derail that. You're not going to discourage me in doing it. I'm not going to change what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. You know, I got people saying, Rabbi, your teachings are so good, but if you could just, treat people, he called me to do this, right? Me meaning me, like who I am. Okay, if he wanted you to be treated differently, he'd have called somebody else. I'm just being honest with you, okay? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I use that as a callous excuse to just behave any which way. I still try to elevate and grow and be more Yeshua-like and handle things. I'm just saying, but he did call me to be me doing this. He didn't call me to now be somebody else doing it. He could have just called somebody else to do it. So get over it. If you're called to this, this is what you got. Oh, but I like the team. Oh, man, he gets, you just don't like me. Well, then you have a problem with who put me here. I mean, if he drew you to this and even moved you here, then you were supposed to get this. I'm just being blunt and straight. Because if not, why'd you move? Why are you here? If you didn't think all that, well, I was just wrong. All right, well, then maybe you were wrong. Okay? Or just maybe this is what you needed, but it's not what you wanted. Do you all understand that Yahweh gives you what you need, not what you want? Okay? I mean, every now and then you might get what you want, but sometimes what you want is also what you need. But he's going to give you what you need. Some of you need every bit of whatever comes out of this microphone with all of the attitude and whatever that you don't like. But that's what you need. Oh, but he hurt my feelings. Well, maybe the feelings need to be picked up and put away and not stepped on all the time. Maybe that's a part of the growing up process. Oh, he's just so harsh. Well, maybe you need to get thicker skin. The world's a harsh place. Do you understand? Instead, you should appreciate the blunt, straightforward honesty of what you get. All right? Period. Okay? I'm not pleased. I don't work for anybody, so I don't have anybody to have to please. There's no board that rules me. There's a board, but they don't rule me. You understand what I'm saying? I don't have to answer. Therefore, I can say freely. So what you get, I'm not compelled by anybody except the Almighty to do. It's myself and the Almighty. Nobody says, you got to do this message this week, or you got to do this way, you got to do that way. No. So what you get is what I really believe you're supposed to get from me that week. Whatever that is. That's why I like Rosh Chodeshes. I really don't come up here on most Rosh Chodeshes with anything particularly to say. I wrote a couple of notes down this time, just some bullet point ideas that I thought I might want to cover, but normally I just get up here and start going. Because it's just whatever he's giving me that he thinks that you should have, that he knows you should have. And some of you know you have a convenience inconvenience problem. Some of you know you have a logic emotional problem. Well, maybe you need to hear that. Amen? Amen. All right, I wasn't planning to do this necessarily, but if anybody wants to make a comment or ask a question, you can do that. We can put a mic. Does anybody want to do that? Oh, Janet, of course. Okay, Rick's going to set the podium up for you here. Online, you guys are going to get some? You got some already? Oh, you have some personally. All right, so you get started, and we'll get the camera on you, and then we'll get to Rick eventually and Janet. All right, from Shamash Rob.
Okay, Rabbi, let's see if I can. You were saying that, people are going, they're trying to find the right place, and stuff. And how do we, I guess, I was pretty fortunate when my bubble popped, and I found a little place here in Florida, and it wasn't perfect, but when I found you, then that just ended everything, and then we, eventually came up here. But we have people that come, like you said, they move everything, they come here, and then they just realize this isn't for them, and then they leave because and then they'll spin it to say, well, that's what God wanted, or this is what Abba wanted. He didn't really want me here. He must have wanted me back at where I just came from, or somewhere else, So where's that fine line that we're not just church shopping, I guess you could say, that we're not spending that for our own benefit?
All right, really good question. So here's the thing, all right? We have, I think, a problem of how we see all the different, for lack of a better word, players in the play, okay? Okay, you have the creator of the universe, You've got anointed people that he puts in place to do things. I believe they fit into the category of Ephesians 4:11, which is the fivefold, right? You have your apostles and prophets and teachers and shepherds and evangelists. Okay. Now, but I don't think that we really see the different players in this thing that's going on correctly. Okay? So what I mean is this. Hold on. This thing's blocking my whole face. That's better. All right? So what I mean is this. Do you really see the Creator the right way? What do I mean? Well, the Creator says through Paul, well, do you see Paul the right way? I mean, how do you see your word? Is it the word from above? If it's the word from above, did he inspire all the writers, including Paul? Some of you guys out there think Paul's not supposed to be in the Bible. Okay, well, that's your thing, but I think he's supposed to be there. And so when Paul says things like Ephesians 4:11, and it talks about the fivefold and says those guys are going to be available and there until we all come into the fullness of well, hold on, let me just read it to you. Okay? All right? He says, and he himself gave some as emissaries or apostles, some as prophets, some as evangelists, some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set-apart ones. So that's how you should see these guys. They're there to help your perfecting. You're growing into Yeshua-like status, right? That's their job, right? To the work of service, to a building up of the body of Messiah. So these guys are there to do service, to perfect the saints, to service, to building up of the body. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Serving, building up the body, helping them to in becoming perfect, to becoming filled with the integrity of Yeshua. And they're going to be doing this until, it says, he himself gave some, and then the next verse 13 says, until. They're there, these people, to do these things until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah. So not just the measure of the stature, but of the completeness that he had. Okay, that seems pretty big task. And I think we'd all agree that hasn't happened yet. So if we all agree that hasn't happened yet, and he himself gave people in this role for this purpose, and we haven't gotten there yet, then they must still be around. Okay, then the next verse says, because without them, we would be children tossed and borne about by every wind of teaching, etc. It says, they're there so that we should no longer be, because without them, we would be. Which means these are people that are different. They're not just teachers or anybody with a microphone or anybody with some sort of standing up on a box in a city square and whatever they were doing. These are anointed from above to do these things. And their role is to help to perfect you. Look, have you ever done any work with your hands? If you have, you would know that a lot of things you work on, especially if there's any artistic part to it, part of it is getting rid of the imperfections. You've got to scrub off, chisel off, polish off, or something, the imperfections. That's using a lot of rough surfaces to do this work. So you're going to cause, with friction, you're going to get rid of these imperfections. So this process doesn't sound very convenient or gentle. So here's the thing, though, and this is for Rob when he asked the question. If you see the Creator correctly, he wants us all to become Yeshua-like. He then puts in place men who are anointed to do this particular work, and you're supposed to find them and allow them to do the work. So, when people come here, and again, there's no ego or pride here. I'm comfortable believing at this point, after seeing what I can do or what he has me doing and seeing what other people do, that I'm one of these guys. Now, you don't have to believe that or agree with that. That's fine, okay? But I'm not going to sit here with any kind of false humility going, well, you know, blah, blah. I believe that I'm to do this work with the unique not because it's just only me, but I just don't see other people doing it with this kind of intensity and fervor and directness, because everything I do is to help perfect the set-apart ones. That's where you need to have someone who's honest and blunt and straightforward and tells you what the deal is. So when people come here, they see a congregation where they have other people that are seeming to walk out what they're walking out. And that's attractive. They kind of like the teaching, so that's attractive. But they really don't see the role. Okay? Because that role means you must be submitted to allow the Father to use that person to help perfect you. Wow, that's what people want to call this cultish. Well, that's what he's, you're either going to trust, and that's, by the way, set up in Deuteronomy 17, which we covered last week, in the teaching. It's covered in Matthew 18, when that connects to Deuteronomy 17. These men are supposed to be there, and their decisions and judgments are to be respected and submitted to. Now, not with every little piece of your life. That would be cultish. You really see never in this book people involved in telling everybody how to do their everyday life. You see them giving guidance when people ask for guidance about halakha, about the walk. By the way, you know what else you don't see in here? And this is so funny because we're going to talk about this maybe on Saturday. I may be doing expectations. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But when I do cover the expectations at some point, you're going to see and understand. You guys have an expectation for all kinds of things that I'm not required to do. But I'm glad to do them because you need them. Where do you see counseling going on in here? About life issues and personal issues and family strife and job and career issues. Where do you see any of that? I mean, you guys are coming because it's free therapy. Okay? Some of you don't even tithe, so it's really free therapy. Not that tithing pays for it, but you understand what I'm saying? An elder says I should just tell everybody, basically, you need to be paying me like a therapist, about $150 an hour, and then that'll fix some of that. And I don't mind doing it, but see, again, we're not seeing. People ask me all the time, well, how come these people left? They did not see me, the Father, and themselves correctly. Okay? And again, this is going to be taken by some of you as an ego thing. Oh, he just thinks we got to see. Look, you got to find these guys, and when you do, how are you going to act? That's all I'm simply saying is if I'm one of them, why don't you act like I'm one of them? Some of you do, not everybody, very few actually. But if you found one of them, how would you act? And by the way, I don't know why you think you'd love Paul or Peter or James or any of the guys if you were in any of their congregations. Certainly not Peter and Paul. Those guys were at least as rough as me, if not worse, okay, in how they could be a little caustic and straightforward with you. Paul had quite a tongue and Peter had a sword. Might try to cut your head off, all right? Okay, because remember, when he cut that guy's ear off, he wasn't aiming for his ear. Okay? The guy ducked and he caught the ear, but he went for the head. So does that help answer the question, Rob? All right, give me a thumbs up. I mean, really, this is the biggest problem, and we're going to talk about this in the expectations, but your job, again, this is not me telling you, even though I told you, yes, I feel I'm one of these guys, that doesn't mean you have to listen to me. If you think I'm one of these guys, you need to listen to me. If you're actively looking for one of these guys, you need to find one of these guys. Now, do you expect that these guys are going to sound like all of the talking heads you see on YouTube? No. They're going to sound different, aren't they? All right? When they saw Yeshua speaking, they said, this one's different. Not just because he was Messiah. They thought he was like a prophet. He speaks with a level of authority that's different. Okay? Don't you think they felt that way whenever Peter got up there and was speaking? Or any of the other apostles were speaking? This guy, something's different. There's a level of authority there that's different. Okay? And that's what makes all the difference. But then if you don't see it and don't act that way, then you don't have the respect. See, one of the things that Elder and I talk about all the time is the incredible lack of respect for the vertical structure. And that's because you've been in such terrible vertical structure your whole lives that you just don't understand the need for it. And that's Hasatan at work, by the way, so that when you finally find the right one, you're not going to have any respect to how to behave correctly there either, because you've already been practicing the other way. He's like, that was easy. Boink, hits the button, right? So that's what it always comes down to. You know why people leave? They did not see. They thought they saw, or they saw only what they wanted to see. Okay? What's it say here you should be looking for, though? You're looking for somebody who's going to be working towards perfecting you, who's doing the work of service to try to build up the body of Messiah, and is also going to help keep you so you are no longer tossed about by every wind of teaching. Okay? Also, it says actually with trickery and cleverness and craftiness. If you think that I'm being clever and tricky and crafty to come up with the things that I'm teaching you that the scripture says straight out, and I point verse after verse after verse to prove it to you, and the Hebrew and the Greek, etc., that you need, I'm sorry if you feel that way. But you've got to be looking for these things. And when you find that, then you should know how to act when you find that. Because they're there for you. And if you don't know that I'm here for you, then you haven't really understood me at all. Okay? And if you think, oh, but you seem so impatient, and you have no idea the patience. Especially with people, if we have strife, if they come back and then give me a chance to say, okay, I'm listening, let's go. I have incredible amounts of patience and compassion. And I've been accused of actually being, you're too nice. And you're saying, how is that possible? We've heard you. Because I bring to the situation what is needed in the situation. One of those roles is prophet. What hat do you think I wear most of the time when I'm teaching? I'm crying aloud, I'm sparing not. You guys all get excited about a prophet. Cry aloud, spare not. What do you think spare not means? Don't hold back is what spare. So say what needs to be said. Don't pull any punches. Is that not what you get from the microphone? Right? All right, Janet.
Rabbi, thank you.
You're welcome.
And yes, you do meet us every single time we come to you. You meet us with compassion. So I wanted to thank you for Shabbat, after Shabbat, when we met with us and spend the time that we needed. I really appreciate that, Rabbi, because it really is not your role, right? But you still do that. Rabbi, I have a question about what you said with
Hold on, I want to ask you a question, because you're a therapist. How many people do you normally see in a day? How many hours?
It varies, but I'm about 30 per week.
About 30 per week. Okay, I do that on Tuesday and Thursday. I'm just trying to give people perspective, okay? I put in almost 15 hours probably on 2 days each. Not to mention that I also counsel the other days, because even though he doesn't put people on my schedule, I think a week ago on a Wednesday, I think I ended up counseling the whole day anyway. So I'm putting in like 60 hours a week counseling. And this isn't even our job. Right. But could you imagine if you had to do 60 hours, you might start to get a little tired and impatient, and it'd be tough, wouldn't it? Okay? And so it takes an anointing from above to sit there every single day, every week, and listen to just a lot of really, challenging things sometimes, because a lot of it is really real and serious. A lot of it's just total nonsense. And I'm not mocking the people. It's their nonsense is very real to them. And so it's hard to unravel that stuff and get them to hear and everything else. And Elder sits with me every Saturday night, too. We finish after Oneg. We start counseling around 7:30. We go to midnight. So we go for like 4.5 hours. After a whole day of services, after everything else. And he'll see me. I sit there and take each one as fresh as a daisy, ready to take the next one. Because that's the job. That's the anointing. All right? And I'm not saying that to brag at all. I'm simply saying that I don't think as a human being, I could do what I do. Just from a human level. Because I would have no patience for any of it. Okay? That's my personality. But it's the job. Okay? The job is to do the service to the body and helping perfect, etc. And so I sit there. and I do the job. All right, Janet?
And you do it very well, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Rabbi, so you were talking about looking at negative feedback logically, not emotionally. So I think that, well, I want to know what you think about getting feedback from your children, right? Because I think we should be open to receive feedback from people above us, but also, you know, the ones that we're supposed to be guiding and helping and serving. So how does that look like with keeping in mind your role with them as I'm the parent and they're the kids?
Okay. Again, take what I said. So any kind of negative feedback, logic has to come in. It doesn't mean that we take away the behavioral correction that may be necessary to say, you were correct, daughter or son, but you should have done it in a more respectful way because maybe they didn't do it respectfully. There are respectful ways, by the way, for someone in the below, meaning in the vertical structure, you're below somebody. There's respectful ways to share negative feedback, all right? And so as long as they were respectful, you should then receive it and actually ask the question, are they right? If they're right, then own it, apologize to them, and make the adjustment, and appreciate the negative correction, okay? Now, if they didn't do it respectfully, still appreciate and ask the question, are they right? But you still may need to talk to them about a better way to approach it. Because I've done that a few times with people. I said, you know what, you're right, but that was the wrong way to handle it, okay? Okay? You know.
Good job. I mean,
Okay.
good answer. Thank you.
Okay, like for example, I give this example often. There was a lady in the congregation who was singing a different way of doing Vishamru. She liked the one we do now. This is years and years ago. We tried a different version of it. There's different ways you can do the Vishamru. Same words, different, tune, so to speak. And we're sitting during the oneg. She was sitting next to me. She looked at me. She goes, Rabbi, you need to change it back, that Vishamru, to the other way. I said, hold on. First of all, I don't need to do anything. That's not the way you need to talk to me. That's what you need to. We need to not have that. I said, second of all, I agree with you. I think we do need to change it back. I tried it. I don't think it works either, okay? But that's not the way to speak to me. So you see that? I took it logically. I said, she's right, but I also had to tell her, hold on. No, I don't need to do that. If you're the parent, the child says, no, I don't need to, but you're right, and I will make that adjustment because you're right. Okay? But I want to make sure you do it respectfully. And I told the person there's a respectful way to do that. I would have appreciated you come up and say, Rabbi, I realized you were trying out this other version. I just wanted to give you some feedback and tell you I like the other one better. No, instead I heard, you need to switch back. I was like, okay, we are, but not because you just said that. All right? Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
All right, so the need to be results focused before you do anything is what you said. So we're making decisions, a lot of decisions every day, right? So does that mean that at every moment we're supposed to be asking these questions, or is it mainly when we're feeling emotionally negatively about
Look,
something?
the more often you can ask it, the better. The question being, is what I'm going to do right now, I mean, if it's something you do every day and you know the result it generally gets, that's one thing. But I'm saying if you're going to do something that's not the usual thing, then you might want to, especially if you're going to be interacting with somebody, and especially if it's something that you're bringing up a topic that you haven't brought up, even if it's not a negative one, but you're a little nervous about how they may respond or this or that, you should always ask the question, look, if I do this way, if I was on the other side of it, how is it likely to be received? Not what I'm hoping for, but what is actually the likely thing, right? I'm a sales guy. I've been in sales my whole life. So we work under the idea of, and also in business, when you put the proposal, a business plan together, you always talk about best case scenario, worst case scenario, and likely. We'll talk about this during the level up class, okay? And so if I approach somebody about anything, I'm always thinking about, okay, I know the best case scenario is they just love whatever I just said or take the correction or whatever it is. Also, the worst case scenario, they're going to get so angry, they're going to storm off, and I'm never going to see them again. But what's the likely reaction? And then I have to ask myself, is that good enough for me to make the effort? Because that's the likely thing that's going to happen. And if the answer is no, then I have to decide maybe to do things a little differently if I don't think it's actually going to get the reaction. And if the best case scenario isn't even that great, and the worst case is terrible, and the likely is not even that good, I may not do anything. I may just decide to just not do it. And so here's the thing for all of you. if you ever drove, all of you who drive cars, you can really understand this. Or even any of you that have ever just taken up a pen and written. Do you think very much when you write anymore about how to hold your pencil, how to form the A or the B or the C or the D? No. Why? Because you've done it so much. So you do it without thinking. Driving, right? You're doing all the things. When you first drive, you're like looking at the mirrors and which one's the brake? But then you start doing everything more automatically, right? So when you're results focused and you're asking these questions, it happens almost in a split second once you've done it enough. So you're thinking of it like, wow, I have all these things that come up all day long. That would really slow things down a lot. Okay, if I got to go through that process. Not if you do it like really unconsciously and quickly. But that's only because you have to practice it enough. All right? All right, Ashley.
I was about to say Shabbat Shalom, sorry. Rosh Chodesh I wanted to come up here more and give a comment, maybe a question in the end, but I wanted to thank you and thank Abba in this moment because when you were speaking, I was thinking about, wow, how many times in my life when I was younger, going through all this stuff that we have talked about in the past, going, if only I can get out of this situation, if only I could get better, if only something would change, if only magic or whatever could happen and I can get out. Well, lo and behold, it happened 34, 35 years later than I wanted it. But in a way, it's better because after all of that, I can think of, okay, that was horrible. You don't want to go that route. So let's go forward. And by going forward, you have to change, do better, listen to your rabbi. Everything may be inconvenient, but it's not as inconvenient of what it could be or what it was. And then the other thing I wanted to say, it may be inconvenient now, but I don't want to hear Yahweh say, you could have done better. Or show me an incident where I just didn't step up to the plate or I only half done it. And then I have to sit back and, wait for, him to say no and then get into like a fire. And so I just wanted to encourage people, do it now because you won't get the chance later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hold on, I'm writing something down from what you said because I want to cover this in a minute. What did you say? I said, I'm just writing something down. I know you didn't hear me. Give me 1 second. And then I'll answer for what you said. I'm going to read this to you guys in a second. Okay, listen to this, okay? There it is. I got it. All right. She was giving a great example of the things that are happening and talking about being rescued and that kind of thing. Look, as an adult, all right, as an adult, and I wrote this down so I make sure I'll cover this in the future with just one of the things I wanted to remember. I've said this before, but I want to say it again. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Yeshua's coming as Messiah, and the world is going to end and you're going to get changed. But nobody's coming to rescue you from your emotional stuff, from your financial stuff, from your physical stuff, nobody's coming to rescue you. Maybe when you were a child, your parent would swoop in and rescue you. Okay, so let me put this in different words. This is the words I wrote on my phone. You need to do what you need to do because no one is coming to do it for you. Because if they do, then you don't learn. Look, I've told this to lots of parents, told this to my wife. I do this myself, but I want to make sure, I was one telling myself, so I'm going to say this, but when a child gets old enough, it's important that you don't do what they should do for themselves or they won't learn to do for themselves. Okay? Abba treats us all the same way. If he were to do it for you, where would the benefit be? Well, it would be a benefit because my problem would go away. Yeah, that's not going to help you so much necessarily. Dealing with the adversity will help you a lot. Overcoming will help you incredibly, tremendously. Okay? But a lot of you want to come and counsel or whatever you do because you're hoping to just dump that off and somehow we'll fix it all for you. Or you want to pray. Oh, can you just pray for me that Abba would take away this or take away that? And I'm like, no. They look at me like, what? No. Because it's something you need to do. Now, there are things you'll ask me to pray for, I will pray for. You know what they are? The things that you can't do. Not the things that you won't do and should do. I'm not praying for that at all. You ask me, I'm going to tell you no. Because you're just being a coward, or you're being lazy, or it's not convenient, and so you're wanting an out. You want the easy way out. We are human beings. Look at your book. How many times did everybody in this book want the easy way out? Not going to happen. And I'm not going to codependent with you and pray that he takes away your thing you need to fix. Okay? That does not happen. Go to another ministry you want that. Maybe they'll do that for you. Okay? I'm going to give you the strength and encouragement that you can do it and need to do it. Because that's part of your growth. Okay? I've had to say to some people, and some of them failed the question. I asked the question, when are you finally going to be tired of being where you are right now? Okay? Letting this emotional thing rule. I had one gentleman, I told that 2 years ago, and then you know what he did? He quit the ministry. He did not like that I said to him, you know what? You're 40 years old, and you can't even hold a job because you have such anxiety and this and that. So when are you going to be mad enough at that to go get the help you need, whatever it is, to fix this problem? I mean, I'm not mocking people with anxiety. I have a problem with people who just don't make any effort to fix the problem. Own your problem. No, you want to offload it to somebody else. Okay? No one is coming to rescue you from the stuff you're supposed to do. Okay? You're going to show up, and it's going to be, when Yeshua gets here, you're going to be like, well, I prayed to you. Why didn't you help me? He says, help you? I did help you by doing nothing. You're supposed to do that. That's helping you. How are you going to learn to do it if I do it for you? I told you, I learned a lesson real early with my son. He was doing a Lego thing that we bought him to build, like some Lego kit, and he was following the instructions, which he was doing great, but I guess he got to a point where he either didn't know what to do or whatever, it just was convenient to try to ask me. Well, I was busy. So I said to him, I'll be with you in about 5 minutes, and I was in the middle of something. Well, you know what? He wasn't patient enough for that, so he finished the puzzle without me, the kid. And I looked up at him and said, yeah, very good, proud of you, you did it. So you know what happened the next time? I said, I'm busy, 5 minutes. I kept doing that, so he always figured it out. He would just hit that point of resistance and want to find the easy way out by having somebody rescue him. When he just put his mind to it a little harder, he figured it out. And so I learned, I got to do that with everybody. Don't just be so quick to swoop in, Look, Elder and I have talked about this many times, usually about benevolence, but I'm going to put this in general terms, okay? And if you ask him, he'll tell you, you probably heard the same thing from him. We should be, the ministry, the last resort. Talking to him should be the first resort. You pray to Yahweh. Yahweh, what do I need to do? Don't just pray, Yahweh, take this from me. What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? What do I need to learn? What do I need to do? Okay? But coming to the ministry should be after you've already tried everything you can come up with. Okay? Now, if you can't come up with anything because you're in such a bad place, then you come for counsel. Well, I'm talking about when there's something like, I don't know what to do. I can't pay my bills. I don't know what to do. I keep buying cars that break. I don't know what to do. This, and this. Well, what did you try to do? Nothing. I sat home depressed. Well, that's not going to work. You want to be rescued all the time. I talked about this, I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, to the men. Men, you need to have that cape ready to put on and be the hero, right? Okay? Heroes don't need to be rescued. You know what's funny? I caught myself doing this. I think it was earlier today or yesterday. It doesn't matter. But I caught myself doing this. I caught myself recognizing in a sort of bizarre way that people ask me things and I just automatically say, yes, I'll take care of it. And what I'm saying is realizing full well I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I'd figure it out. Elder will tell you, I just say yes to everything. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. On the phone, it's always flipping out. I said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Now, it's something they can't do. There's no way they could do it, and it's something that, and I say, I'll take it. But I realized that's the hero cape. All of you can do that, not knowing at all how you're going to do it. But if you want to do it and are confident you can do it, it'll come. You'll figure it out. You'll find the resources or the people or the information that you need. No, instead you're going to whine and complain and want to offload it on somebody. Good. You know what that does? That lets them be the hero and you get to lose out, because you lose out when that happens. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that when he says the poor are with you always so that we can learn to be the ones who take care of them, that's great. If you actually have a genuine need and you really can't figure out what to do, you should come, because then you get to be the one that allows us to be the hero. And that's appropriate. But you should have tried everything else first. I've got people that will come to the ministry for benevolence, and I'm like, and they've got money in a CD they don't want to, or a mutual fund, or this or that, or 401k. They've got all kinds of other ways they can take care of this stuff, but they want us to help them because they don't want to mess their own stuff up. I'm like, no. Okay? It's like the first time anybody asked me about benevolence, I wasn't even the leader of the congregation. The leader asked me my thoughts on it, and he said, this lady's having, needs some money to pay for her rent. She's short on her rent. I said, okay, is there any more information? Yeah, she smokes 3 packs a day. I said, good. I have no problem helping her after she quits smoking, because I'm not paying for the cigarettes. So whatever she's paying for cigarettes should have gone to the rent. So basically, I'm paying for her cigarettes. I think that's fair. You want to ask me for money, then you should have already used every possible resource you could have used to take care of yourself. Not like the one lady who called us the other day, thought we're a bank, and said, well, I gave you money, so I want you to take care of me. It's like, we're not a bank. Okay? There's no verse that says you give your tithe, and then when you need it, it gets given back to you. Matter of fact, there's no verse saying anywhere that you see the Levites doing any of that stuff. The third tithe is said to be helping the poor, and we know that they did that. But you were mostly told to not glean the corners of your fields and do other things. But people are very interesting in how they see these things. All right? So hopefully that helped, in what was going on. Thank you, Ashley, for asking that. Okay, Grayson.
So I had a comment in regards to the GWD Level Up course. And if somebody's on the fence about whether or not they want to spend $500 for the class, I just wanted to put it out there as someone who's been in the self-development space and have invested into it, that there's an immense amount of value that comes from simply the fact that you are making that investment and paying for the information, because not only are you getting to learn from somebody who knows way more than you do, but because you're making that investment, you're going to be significantly more likely to carry out and do what you're learning, because a lot of the time you don't have that
You don't have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And actually, exactly. I normally mention that, and so I'm glad you mentioned that.
I figured it'd come better from someone who's not directly benefiting from it.
What you get free, you tend to do nothing with. You pay more for something, you tend to do something with it. That's the main reason why I picked an amount that was challenging for you. Okay? Challenging for you. I wanted it to be a stretch. I didn't want to make it like, well, $50, anybody just throw $50, and they still won't do it. I want it to be something you really had some... By the way, most of the personal development programs out there are going to cost you that per day. I'm giving you 6 days worth of classes and covering all these subjects over a little more than a 2-month period. I mean, the price is cheap. Okay, if you look at programs, the price is very cheap. All right, next, go ahead.
I just had another thing, and the fact that because I already did it once, I get to do it again. That's just an immense added value, because now I know that Tony Robbins, and he got to where he got because he went to every single one of his teachers' events, and it's not because he didn't know what he was going to say. It's because he knew that it was going to be positive programming. So the fact that I already made my investment once, and now I get to reap the rewards and continue to receive that positive programming, because I can go 5 times, and it's like, okay, well, I only paid $100 for each one, and I get all of the benefit from it. And so I just wanted to make those points for anybody who was not sure if it was the right thing for them.
All right, and you're also, look, and I'm not trying to be a sales guy here, but you're also getting the videos, which means, and none of these guys give you the videos. You go do a live event with Tony, there's no videos. Okay, you're there, that's it, and you go home. And I know there's no videos. You know why? Because all these live events have a Saturday in them, and I ask, do you record it so I can get the recording from Saturday, because I'm not going to be there Saturday? And they go, no, we don't provide recordings. I'm like, ugh. So everything's going to be recorded that you'll have access to. And also, I'm not as scripted as those guys, which means that I will absolutely say some things, Grayson, in the course you're going to take now that's different than in the course you took. The main content will be the same. But any of the sort of spontaneous other things that I throw in there, some of that will be different. The good news is you won't miss out on anything if you didn't go to the first class, because as soon as you finish the second class, the first class will be available to you. Okay? So the class that he went to, once you finish, if you're doing this now, you'll have access to all the ones he went to. And so you'll get to hear the same thing over and over again, plus all those additional little nuggets that I may throw out there spontaneously, because I don't have this practiced, rehearsed, and scripted the way somebody like a Tony Robbins may have. Okay, he's done this for so many years that he's got it down to a script, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Word for word, he'll do the same thing pretty much each time. Okay, so there's some benefits to that. All right, anything else? From you, Grayson? No. Okay, live stream, Rob? Oh, he just got up. Okay. Okay. Welcome, we have a guest. You're in the chat. Okay, well, go ahead and have a seat. Rob's got to get on the, you're up to you guys in the live stream, so. And we'll get to say hi to you when this is all over. Don't trip over that, nope. Watch the barrier that's covering the wires, yep. All right, well, welcome. All right, Rob, what do you got online before we close this up?
I don't have any questions, just a lot of people thanking you for what you do and what you provide for those that can't physically be here, that's spread all over the world. So that's all we have. We don't have any questions.
All right, awesome. Okay, so look, let me just say this for those of you that are, watching from all over the world. There's a few things that are going to make be to your advantage that are coming, okay? One thing is I'm going to be traveling a lot more coming here soon, as I'm starting to plan to visit the local congregations in the U.S., local meaning the U.S., and Canada possibly, and then, of course, I expect sometime in the late fall to get to the South Pacific and hit the Philippines, the Australians and the New Zealanders, okay, out in that direction. Some of you that are in some of the other Zone 3 countries might want to come and travel over to where I'll be for one of those places, like, because we have people in Indonesia and Singapore and Malaysia and Fiji, etc. So, maybe we'll get some of you to come and visit. I'll let you know when and where we're going to be, to whichever one of those is most convenient to you, okay? And so we'll do some of that. Also, for you guys, I have a new video. I don't know if it's quite finished yet, that has a better, longer, more detailed version of the property that we're building. And so that's very exciting. I'm still hoping to break ground here soon. We're still waiting on things moving at government speed, so that's a little slow. But everything seems to be working out pretty good. As a matter of fact, okay, so it's Tuesday, he said he'd be back. So, Billy, we want to talk to the soil guy tomorrow or Thursday as soon as we can find out, all right? Okay, and so everything's going great with that. We're building a 600-seat worship center and 600-seat dining hall. Okay. The building's like 38,000 square feet or something like that, okay? And so it's going to have classrooms for the youth program. It's going to have the room for everybody to dance, okay, for the dancing. Just a fantastic setup. And we're expecting that to be finished by Passover 25. Okay, that's when we're expecting this to be, okay? That's what we've got everybody contracted, all the diagrams and architectural drawings. Everything's done. We're just waiting for the go, okay? So we're pretty much ready to go. And then we're told it's about 450 days and it's done. So I told them I need it by April of 25 for Passover, and that's what they're aiming at, and we should be good to go on that, okay? So we're very excited about that. So I just, just all of you out there, be free to call us, contact us, let us know where you're at. We may be able to point you in the direction of a congregation. We have a few that are out there. We've got one in Ohio, in Brown, Ohio. We've got another one further north in Ohio. We've got one in Odessa, Texas, one in Houston, Texas. Okay, got a group that meets in Baltimore. We got one down in Georgia. We got a whole bunch of them all over the place. Okay, so and hey, if you want to affiliate with us, if you've been following us long enough, you know, you say, and you have enough people nearby that want to have a congregation, call us and we'll see what we can do. We're certainly open to that. Okay, but understand, we do a vertical structure here. We only work with groups that I'm their rabbi, and you use the live stream as your service, and that's how we do it. Why? Because we're trying to get away from the every wind of doctrine confusion of 57 different teachers, okay? All right. So that being said, and there's no more questions from the stream, let's go ahead and close. I'll go ahead and close with some prayer. Father, we come before you. Actually, why don't you all stand up for this? All right. Father, we come before you, and Father, we want to just get motivated by the passage of time and knowing this is a new moon, a new month. And Father, that we would take the opportunity to build on whatever progress we've made up to this point and fix and grow in the areas that still need that much more growth as we go forward to the next moon. And from moon to moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, and from year to year, may we become more and more like you. So, Father, we come to you now, seeking your face, submitting ourselves to you, and appreciating you to bring glory and honor only to you in the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 All right. I'll go over here, and then maybe we can wave. We're going to go wave at John, who's behind the camera. Anybody wants to be on camera, come on this side. Okay, Agnes, I got you. There you go. Get Rebbitzin. All right. We got everybody? All right, so let's look over here towards John at this camera. We want everybody out there to know how much we appreciate them and we value them as part of the congregation. So we're going to wish them all a Rosh Chodesh Sameach, a Shavua Tov, a good week, and tell them that we love them. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.